but Deborah
Yeah.
still, I think,
And you have like
I don't know if she's in the ladies' room or if she went outside. She grabbed my phone.
Halloween? Fall?
right, yeah. Ready? Got everybody on the Oh, you see the dial? Good? Okay. Can we stand for the flag salute? Pledge allegiance to the flag. Roll call.
Ms. Bridges? Mr. Garay?
Here.
Ms. Giacobbe? Here. Ms. Hale? Mrs. Kennedy? Mr. Miles?
Here.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Here.
Mr. Timmons?
Here.
Mr. Lopez?
Here. Public notice of this meeting in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act was given by the Board Secretary on October 23rd, 2020 by sending notices to the Home News Tribune, the Union County Local Source, the City Clerk of Rahway, the Rahway Public Library, and by posting notices on the bulletin board outside the Board of Education office on the second floor of the 7th and 8th grade academy. At this time, we'll take public comment on agenda items only. Please stand, state your name, and be mindful that comments will be limited to 3 minutes per topic. Seeing none? Move on to reports, liaisons and assignments. Mr. O'Reilly?
Mr. Lopez. I'm just going to go down some community stuff and events that took place or taking place at the high school. Homecoming versus traditional rival Linden. It's November 6th or 7th. The call on the game will be made by November 2nd, if it's going to be the 6th or the 7th. This past Saturday, the Phi Alpha Kappa sorority had a, entering the college process night, virtual night. Went over, financial aid information, admissions information, and the whole college application process. The after-school tutoring programs kicked off, started on October 19th. There's 4 locations right here: Rahway Academy, Zion Lutheran Church, the Rahway Rec Center, and Dash, which is Agape Church. It's for grades K to 12. It also covers non-public school students. Non-public school students, to register, you have to email tutoring@cityofrahway.com. Rahway Public Schools, parents enter and register through the parent portal. It's from 4 to 6, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. On the 19th of November, at the Rahway Recreation Center, in conjunction with the city and the county, there will be flu shots given. Social distancing rules will be in effect. Masks must be worn. You can go to ucnj.org/flu for more information. It's for ages 4 and up, and it's 11/19 from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Rahway Recreation Center. Tomorrow with the city, Rahway's own Lewis Campbell, Wednesday night teen talks will start at the Cherry Pit on Wednesdays going forward. That starts tomorrow. I'm a little biased. Lewis was a year older than me. Went through high school with him. I look forward to seeing what Lewis has to offer for the youth of our city. And I'd like to announce, I want to thank Mike Keats here, REA president. We spoke with Freeholder Hudak today, and in conjunction with the REA and the Union County Freeholder Board, Freeholder Hudak, we're going to offer the REA members, Rahway Board of Education employees, free COVID testing towards the end of November. We're going to hammer out the date and finalize it, but it's through CARES Act money that the county's provided, and they want to get as many people tested as possible. Location would probably be here in our parking lot because it's good for social distancing and the setup that they need. So again, I want to thank Freeholder Hudak and, President Mike Keat from the REA for his leadership and always being able to work with us and the board. Thank you, Mike. And the last event at the high school, starting 11/21 and then 11/28, 12/12, and 12/19, is a HBCU tour and series. Of course, we're virtual right now because of the pandemic, but that starts 11/21, again 11/28, 12/12, and 12/19. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Anyone else? Okay. Superintendent's report?
Okay. Somebody wave at me out in the audience if you can't hear me. The first report is a report on services for children. This is the monthly report for the month of September, so the current month and the year to date are identical. These are just our tallies for referrals, classifications, preschool declassifications, transfers, residency, truancy checks. Any questions from the board? That's it.
Good? Mm-hmm. Board Secretary?
June's report, final report, and the August.
I need a motion to accept the superintendent's report and the board secretary's report.
Motion.
Mr. Riley, second. Mr. Miles? Questions, comments? Roll call?
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jacoby?
Yes.
Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes. Anything at this time from the attorney? Communications?
I do have a few things. Some new things. We actually got a communication from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Looking forward to working with the schools again this year, even if it's virtually. Especially Cleveland and Roosevelt schools really participate in their Pennies for Patients. Rahway Food for Friends sent us a thank you letter to the Academy because the Academy worked to donate enough money through Pomptonian Food Service so that they were able to provide 50 families with salads through Rahway Food for Friends. And then the last couple of things I want to do is some recognition of some staff people. First, from the New Jersey State School Nurse Association, want to recognize Barbara Marr, one of our school nurses who happens to also be our lead nurse. She's the membership chair for the state association and is very active in all of that stuff. And Barbara's been instrumental in helping us develop a lot of our health, and all the school nurses, developing our health protocols. And then another shout out to Jennifer Alphonse, our early childhood supervisor. Jennifer is co-chair of the state level committee that is reviewing preschool standards. So she's got a lot on her plate with that one. But that's a nice honor for us and for her. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Camp. Okay, under the consent agenda, we're going to be removing a number 15 on page 9. We're going to move that one separate later on. And also on page 5, motion number 6, under personnel, we're going to remove that at this time. Seeing that, I need a motion to move all consent agenda items.
So moved.
Carlos?
Second.
Mr. Miles? Questions, comments?
Abstention on page 10, number 8, Union County Ed Service.
Just wanted to explain to the audience, all of these motions on the consent agenda were discussed at the caucus meeting with the board.
Roll call?
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mrs. Jacoby?
Yes.
Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Yes.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes. Okay, on page number 9. Number 15. I need a motion to approve the second reading of the following policies.
So moved.
Second, Dorian?
Second.
Second, Mr. Gary. Questions, comments? Dr. Camp, did you have anything to say on that, or? Good, okay.
No, we're good.
Roll call.
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Guerre?
Yes.
Mrs. Giacobbe? Yes. Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Yes.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes. Continuing on page 9, under Finance and Facilities, I need a motion to move number 1 through 5.
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Garay, Mr. Miles. Questions, comments? Roll call.
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Guerre?
Yes.
Mrs. Giacobbe? Yes. Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Yes.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes. Anything under old business? None? Okay, at this time, we'll take public comment on new business. Again, just state your name and address, and be mindful that comments will be limited to 3 minutes per subject matter. The new business on the, on the
New
agenda.
business.
Page 15.
Seeing none? Oh. You good? Ms. Palmer? Okay. All right, we'll close that portion. Under new business, personnel, page 15, I need a motion to move number 1 through 6. Mrs. Bridges?
Second.
Mr. Riley? Questions, comments? Roll call?
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Guerre?
Yes, but abstain on 4.
Mrs. Giacobbe? Yes. Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Yes.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes. On page 16, under curriculum and education, I need a motion to move number 1 through 4. Ms. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Miles, second. Questions, comments?
Just for the public's sake, the personnel and student placement items were discussed in executive session with the board before this meeting.
Roll call?
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Guerre?
Yes.
Mrs. Giacobbe? Yes. Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Yes.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes. Under finance and facilities, Ms. Wilson, do we want to add those numbers?
Yes, so for number 2, we want to add the cost to that is $83,500, and number 3 is $60,700 for this project.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the second number?
$60,700?
That's items 2 and 3, under finance facility, page 17. So I need a motion to move 1 through 5.
So moved.
Mr. Garay, second.
Second.
Mr. Timmons? Questions, comments? Roll call?
Ms. Bridges? Yes. Mr. Guerre?
Yes.
Mrs. Giacobbe? Yes. Mr. Miles?
Yes.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Yes.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes. So at this time, we'll take public comment on non-agenda items. So for the rest of the public, you could remain in your seat. You can just stand and state your name and address. But Mike, you can do whatever you want, Mike.
Oh, well, in that case. Good evening. My name is Michael Keat, President of the Raleigh Education Association. I reside at 120 Winslow Place in Garwood. Before I get into the main topic on everyone's minds, education during a pandemic, I feel it's important to share with you some of the health insurance situations my members have been dealing with due to the change of our provider. As had been for each of the transitions from one insurance to another during my career, this transition to the SEHBP has not gone smoothly. Many members have had to pay more for services or prescriptions due to the switch. In most situations, the problems arise with the formulary for medications, a term I never thought I'd say in my life. However, in some situations, members have been denied previous services or therapies that they had continued for years. One member has been on the phone with Horizon and Optum for countless hours, trying to continue the medication and treatments for her 9-year-old son. She and her doctors have continued to fight and file the correct paperwork, only to be denied time and again. Her son's condition requires intensive therapy and medication. It is infuriating to see a member have to fight this hard for the well-being and life of her child. This is a situation that illustrates that any change in health insurance should be deeply examined. Throughout this pandemic, the Raleigh Education Association has continued to work with its members, the district administration, the Board of Education, and the community at large. This partnership has helped Raleigh to provide safe and quality education during the most trying times of our lives. By now, we all know that no answer is perfect. However, we should always try to come to the decisions that will keep our students and staff safe. In late August, for Union County alone, the number of new cases per day was in the teens. Recently, that number has averaged to over 100 new cases per day. With this in mind, it is important for all stakeholders to be aware of some of the situations which may need adjusting or improvement even this late in the game. Returning students and staff to buildings is not a decision to be taken lightly. Our custodial and maintenance crews have been working their hardest to prepare our buildings, even when understaffed. Tomorrow, I'll be meeting with our Buildings and Grounds Director to get an update from him about the readiness of classrooms and ventilation systems. We will be working with him and our members to confirm that the buildings and classes being used for instruction are following our district's reopening plan. With an uptick in COVID cases and colder weather pushing people to congregate indoors, I feel our decision for pre-K to 6 students and staff to work in person from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. should be reconsidered. At the time this decision was made, the cases were in decline and COVID was starting to be under control in our state. This is no longer the situation we are in. The 9 to 2 schedule, while completely contractual, has students eating, masks off, in the classrooms with their homeroom teachers. Obviously, any time indoors, unmasked in classrooms is a decision which could have great consequences. To my knowledge, Rahway is the only district in Union County who is planning on having a large number of students eating inside the classroom under these conditions. Currently, Linden is providing hybrid instruction to its students with half days in person, sending the students home with lunches, and then working with those students remotely for the remainder of the day. This is a model I feel our district should consider. Many districts have opened their doors to students returning only to shut those doors shortly because the number of cases in their buildings. This constant change to delivery instruction is detrimental to student learning. When returning to in-person, a large amount of instructional time will be devoted to students learning new daily routines. The continuity of solid remote instruction, I feel, outweighs the uncertainty that students will have while also losing precious time in instruction. Just recently, North Public Schools announced that it will continue remote instruction until January 25th. We should continue to evaluate the COVID situation and re-examine our upcoming decisions to ensure the safest and best possible education for our students. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Key. Anyone else from the public?
Good evening.
evening. My name is Kwane Palmer Chambliss. I reside at 1650 Shirley J. Palmer Way, Rahway, New Jersey. I'm here as a citizen, but I'm also here because I happen to be the president of the Rahway NAACP. First of all, I would like to thank those members of the Rahway Strong Team who are here today, who came out to our town hall meeting to give the public an opportunity to hear from all sides of those who would like to represent our young people as members of the Board of Education. A lot of people were grateful that they had an opportunity to hear from all sides and help them with their decision making in terms of who they would like to see next sit upon this dais to represent our young people. Having said that, you all know that one of the points of contention that I personally had was the inability to say Black Lives Matter, or the ability to say Black Lives Matter and not center that in the decision making of this board. I don't know where we are in terms of decolonizing the curriculum and making sure that the Amistad bill is in every part of the curriculum in this school. It doesn't mean like what we have in the middle school, and though I thank Mr. Johnson for what he has done, but having separate Black history courses was not the objective of the Amistad bill. The bill was written so that African American history is taught within the curriculum, not a separate tour guide aspect of teaching, but a part of American history, which brings me to the literature curriculum. I don't know where we are in terms of decolonizing that, but it makes no sense that in 2020, our young people are still reading a book list that is made of all white characters, all white authors, with books that were read when people my age were reading them. There's no reason why we're still reading The Outsiders in Rahway Public Schools. No reason why we're doing that. And I'm not sure where we are with revitalizing that curriculum, but it should not take a full year for you all to get some books in that curriculum that represent the children who go to this public school. We need some Black characters, we need some Black authors, we need some Latino characters, we need some Latino authors, we need some gay and lesbian characters, we need some gay and we need the whole gambit to be reflected in our curriculum, and currently it is not, and it should not take a whole school year for you all to figure out how to get those books in there. I really expect by January, especially in that 6th grade curriculum, that there should be some books that represent those young people. And your media and library specialists also have to know that they need to also introduce books that look like the characters. My 6th graders should not have to tell the media specialist that every time you pick up a book, it's a book about a white character. Do you have anything that represents someone who looks like me? My final issue with Black Lives Matter is that every board in this town, in the county or whatever, have figured out how to have meetings virtually so that the community can participate either by Zoom or either by the Google one, except this board. It is a danger to the African American community that they should have to come out. Myself, I have health issues that I should have to come out, that in order for me to participate in democracy, I have to leave my home, I have to come out in public to be able to address this board, when it seems that every other board in this city and in this county have figured out how to do it by Zoom. You all do not. I look also to that as a little bit of voter suppression, because it doesn't give all of us an opportunity to participate. If someone has an underlying health condition, they're not able to participate. Yet, you allow voices in the ceiling to participate and vote on your board when they're not physically here as well. But the public who voted you in doesn't have that same opportunity to participate. That is wrong on all sides of the coin. Does not reflect transparency. It does not reflect that you are customer or community friendly, and it doesn't show that you really understand the aspect that Black lives do matter, since we are the #1 people who are dying as a result of contracting COVID, and you know that these numbers are going up. So I would really hope that the next time you all come together and have a meeting, that you figure out how to do it so that those of us who have compromised immune systems because of sickness or whatever, or just because we were born Black in America and that alone comes with the burdens of being that, can have an opportunity to participate in democracy without having to compromise our health. And as the gentleman said, I think we should really relook at the plan of opening these schools back up, since these numbers are going back up, and we know the majority of the students in the district, who they reflect and what they look at. I think it's 79 to 80% Black and Brown, or, as me, I call everybody Brown because everybody who's here is part of the history of colonization in the North, South, and Central Americas. So please keep that in mind, and please show that you do have a heart for the community and that Black lives do matter, and give us an opportunity to participate in these meetings via Zoom, and we be able to ask questions like we do here, the same way you allow the voices in the ceilings to come through and participate in these meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer. Anyone else?
Hello, good evening. My name is John Marks. I reside at 557 West Hazelwood Avenue in Rahway, obviously. I just wanted to say, first of all, to the board, as well as to Dr. Camp, I wanted to say thank you very much for deciding back in the summer to keep us, and to everyone, obviously, I'm sure it was a group effort decision, to keep all of us virtual, to keep all of us safe. I'm speaking, of course, for the staff and the students and the community at large, which those decisions affect. So I applaud and appreciate that you decided to do that. That being said, and this is something that's already been said by the two other speakers that came before me, it's a very different situation now compared to when you made the decision back then. I just want to pull up a screenshot from my phone because I saw something that was quite alarming. And I can't find it now, but I had it before and I lost it. But anyway, apparently the 7-day average for new cases in Rahway specifically over 7 days, it was 26, I think, last week, and apparently this week it's 34. That's just for here, and that's very concerning. If this was, I think if I took a good look at it, back in April or even in May, it wasn't that high at a certain point. So that was when we were all virtual. So now the trend is going back up in that direction, and I'm a math teacher and I know how to read trends. And if this continues, this is going to be much, much worse. I think you're going to see a lot of closures in other school districts that probably is waiting until after the election, but honestly, this really shouldn't be a political issue at all. It should always be about the safety of our staff and students. And as I believe Ms. Palmer. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Now the numbers are going up and not down. So this is very concerning, and as Ms. Palmer said, our overall community of students is Black and brown. And unfortunately, this virus disproportionately affects them. So you have to be keeping that in mind when you're making decisions. A lot of students live at home with family members who are sick, and unfortunately, they don't always get the best care, which is very unfortunate. It's a very dire situation. COVID is rampant in this country, and it's increasing now. And we're still learning about the long-term effects of this virus. So the decision you guys make really has some very long-term consequences that you'll have to live with for the rest of your lives. And I really do. I don't underestimate that sort of responsibility. But you do make that decision, and I know it's not one you take lightly. So I really do, honestly and truly thank you for making the decision to keep teachers virtual so far. But I strongly urge and encourage you to reconsider that decision going forward. I know it's not a great situation. I know a lot of parents have to work, and they don't always have care at home. But we have to start thinking outside the box to figure out other new solutions that I'm sure other school districts are currently thinking and mulling over in their minds as well. So it's time to get creative. Teachers get creative all the time. I'm getting creative now. I think it's time this time does so as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sorry, I'm a little sore because I'm post-op surgery a couple weeks ago. My name is Jennifer Motero. I live at 781 Pierpont Street in Rahway. And I just wanted to reiterate to the board that I would urge you to reconsider switching the meetings back to virtual. I know it comes with difficulties, believe me. I'm well aware there was the security issues regarding it, but I believe that back when we were having them virtually, you were having, I think, upwards of 60, 70, 80 people logging in and being informed on what's going on in the district. And now we're in person and we have a dozen. I think last month it was less than that. We want parents and community members to be involved in the board and know what's going on. And I think that especially with numbers rising and our community being as diverse as it is, with Black and Hispanic populations being disproportionately affected, I think it would be beneficial to everyone if the meetings went virtual again so that more people could participate and be active in having their voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no other comments, I'm going to close that portion of the meeting. So like we normally do, once that portion is closed, we'll do our best to answer your questions. We may not have all the answers for you. If you feel that we don't answer a question that you had, you can email us, Dr. Cam, anything specific to a board member, and we will respond. So I'll start by saying I did receive a few emails today about the virtual question. And I just didn't have time to respond, but I was drafting a response and expecting to send it tomorrow. So the virtual question is a very difficult one, and you mentioned that you've experienced it. So back in March, when this whole virtual thing started to break, we were informed that Zoom is not a stable network and is not a secure network, and no school district should use that network, or you pay the consequence. We had to go virtual at that time, given the state of affairs, but we realized also the burden it was going to take to reopen these schools with the right plan. And the board, and many kudos to the board that some of them do have underlying health issues, agreed and understood that we needed to meet in person to get the job done that needed to be done. So I think in July, we had our first back in-person meeting. We tried at that time to offer a virtual option, but again, Facebook is not a place to conduct business. Facebook is a hobby, but it's not a professional atmosphere, and it didn't work. With that said, the state legal perspective on this topic is...
Right. Again, to reiterate, the norm, the most transparent method of conducting government business is in person. That's what the Open Public Meetings Act requires us to meet in person. The virtual is an exception to the rule. It is not the rule. So the choice, looking at all the options, the safety, the rule is to open meetings. If you can socially distance, based upon our numbers, you noted that there's 12 people here today. I've been here 10 years. This is probably a record number of participants we've had in a meeting. So if nothing else, more people are coming out, not less. Pre-COVID, we probably had, Mike and Mr. Keat and Nicole. So more people are coming. It's not scaring people away. People are coming. So based on our average meeting numbers, we can accommodate social distancing, and we're also streaming the video so people can still see what's going on even though they can't come. So we are following the exceptions. We are following the rule, not the exceptions.
Thank you, Maggie. Please. So with that, back in July, we recognized what it was going to take to get this job done. And we all came in person and we met and spent countless hours. We don't just have 2 meetings a month. We have many hours of meetings, committees, all the time. So the board did a tremendous job, the superintendent did a tremendous job, and got us to where we are today. However, that doesn't say that I don't recognize what you're saying. And I understand it. And we'll discuss it, and moving forward, we're going to have to find a platform that may offer some virtual interaction. We don't have it right now. Facebook is not the place. Zoom is not the place. We've tried YouTube, but it may require investing in some software platform, and it may require investing in staff to run that. But if it's something that the public deems important, then we certainly take it important, and we will look into that. Number two, there was some mention about issues with the insurance and prescription. It's the first time I've heard of it, but rest assured we will look into that. The reopening schedule. I mean, again, I think Dr. Camp did a tremendous job to getting us to where we are today. As you know, you mentioned Linden. They're in person. You mentioned, or you didn't mention, but I'll tell you, Colonia, in person. Clark, in person. Almost every district around us, in person. What are they doing? They go to school for a week and then they shut down. And it's disruptions in the schedule, disruptions with the students and the teachers. And Dr. Camp has recognized that from the beginning. She had the foresight to see that that would be a problem. So here we are today, all in the same boat, trying to figure out how to paddle down this river. And again, we will consider. And as things change, we see it changes every day. So your comments will be taken into consideration, and moving forward, there is no guarantees.
Right.
But Dr. Camp,
Yeah, I was going to add a little bit to that, because as some of you are aware, and those that aren't, there is a rather large reopened committee that consists of administrators, a couple of board members, REA representation, our school nurses, community members, some parents. All have been working, well, first since March, when it was just crisis planning at that point in time, and was the district level response team, and then it morphed into the reopen committee, and we consider a lot of different options, and this was a group decision when it came to late July, early August, to postpone any in-person instruction until we could feel things had settled, and that to do a very, very slow rollout, because my intent is that once we start bringing the kids in, they just stay and they keep coming. So far, so good. We'll knock on some wood. We haven't had any issues with the small number of children we already have here, and the original plan was to bring kids in mid-November, all of them. And then looking at things then, we decided that we would push off the 7 through 12 students until sometime in January, and consider bringing in the rest of the elementary students at the end of November. But as I remind the committee and people that in my virtual coffees, these are plans that are always subject to change with little or no notice, depending on the health statistics in the community. Because I'm in regular contact with the Rahway health official, and then there's always the governor could just decide to shut everything down. And so we're keeping an eye on things to watch how things go. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Camp. And then there was a mention of the book selection. Certainly something that we're going to have to look into, and use the experts that we have on staff to come up with a proper solution for that. So. Anything else from the board? No? You good? Okay. Dr. Camp, you good? Okay. Seeing.
We'll be assembling a committee and looking into the books.
So this.
I don't know when.
Mrs. Palmer, that's a breach of protocol. We can discuss it afterwards. We can email, discuss anytime. Okay. But there is a protocol that has to be followed. I'm sorry. Anything else from the board? Seeing nothing, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ms. Bridges, Mr. Garay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.